Man, I love shopping at Piggly Wiggly in Atlanta. It's one of the, growing up, it was
Nobody
one of the,
knows what Piggly Wiggly is.
no one knows.
anymore.
I'm just telling you, but listen.
They are around still.
They are around, but if you weren't like in a very affluent family, if you were middle to lower class income there, then the Piggly Wiggly, man, I'm just telling you, it was like Publix, to us. And so, I did, man. The Piggly Wiggly, that we always went to find a pig, found a pig. And so, man, shout out to the Piggly Wiggly.
That has nothing to do with what we're talking about today. So welcome back to part 4 of the 7 most common struggles the leader faces, or the 7 most common challenges, if you will, in the leadership journey. But ours today rhymes with Piggly Wiggly.
Yes, but I just have to say, seriously, I can't tell you. I don't know if this happens to you, bro. But when we run into all of our listeners, they always talk about the intro, and so many ask me, "Do I know what you're going to say?" And I tell them no. And I'm still trying to find my way to get some clever intros. Like none beats the Snoop Dogg one, and so that was the best. And I tell people, I have no idea what was the one in Cleveland, Ohio? Oh, the standoff in the bathroom. The bathroom standoff. I had some people talk to me about our dating episode. I couldn't believe you took your date.
TMI.
There to the chop shop.
Yeah.
So that was fun. And so,
yeah.
All right.
There wasn't a second date.
There was that. Yes. Cool. Yeah, it was cool. So, all right. Seriously, our leadership.
Yeah. So last week we talked about the overconfident leader.
Yeah.
And part 4.
Yeah. This week, I love. Honestly, and seriously, we joke a lot, but I really love the creativity of your mind, brother, as a leader, and how you always introduce to our team at SLU and also to leaders around the country new terms and phrases and ideas and thoughts.
Yeah.
And I don't know which one of your prayer closets in your home you were in when
It wasn't a prayer closet.
when this type of leader came to your spirit.
Yes,
but there is a special type of leader, as we're in part 4 of this series, that I would love Dr. Crowe.
Yeah.
For you to introduce, because I think it's important. I mean, once we get into it, people know what we're talking about. I'm sure many of you are right now like, okay, just get to it. What are y'all talking about? But there's this new term, this new type of leader. Why don't you?
It's not a new term. It's an old Brit phrase.
Old Brit phrase. Well, a new term that we will hear.
Yeah.
It was a term that you introduced. Let me say it that way. You introduced to us. And so share this wonderful term and type of leader.
Well, springboarding, off of the overconfident leader is the leader who lacks confidence and is confused and disheveled and is random. So there's a British phrase called the Higgledy Piggledy. And so we're going to talk about the Higgledy Piggledy leader. But the phrase Higgledy Piggledy refers to a confused, disordered, or random manner. And to use it in a sentence, for example, the books are piled higgledy-piggledy against one another. It's a leader who is quite disorganized or unsystematic. Probably a leader you could describe as very reluctant even.
Okay.
Deal with that more in another conversation, episode. But because their randomness and their disorganization is not just a quirk, there's something behind that, and so they're kind of they're the disheveled leader. They're the ones that.
It's good.
It's not that they're aimless, but the Higgledy Piggledy leader is just aiming in too many directions at once.
Yeah.
And so that's why they're so disorganized.
Would you say, Brent, and I'm curious if you would describe it this way. You know how you've heard that phrase that you can be the jack of all trades and the master of none. Would you put that type of leader in that category?
Yeah, except for I don't even think that they're choosing to be the jack of all trades. We're talking about an individual who is constantly responding, or they have a thought and they run with it, and it's not that they went, hey, I'm going to become a jack of all these trades. They're just sporadic.
I see. Good.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like if you were to walk into an office of, say, one of the examples that we've used at times in teaching is Einstein's desk.
Mm-hmm.
And, Albert Einstein, when he passed away, there was the family allowed one photographer from Life magazine to take some photos. It was a couple photos of his house, and then a photo of his desk.
Yeah.
And they said he had just passed away, and they went, "You can go in there." And he went into the not the hospital, but his Einstein's office at Princeton, and took a picture of his office, which is mostly his desk.
Yeah.
And it is the most Higgledy Piggledy. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like it was disheveled. It was disorganized. It was there was papers not stacked together.
Right,
There was stuff leaning on top. It just, there was no order to it. Now, I know the immediate reaction by some is, but he was a genius.
Right.
The truth is, most of us aren't geniuses, though.
Yeah.
Like, if you're a genius, you can do that.
Right. That's a good point.
You get to do that if you're Einstein.
If you're Einstein, you can
but
do
the
that.
truth matter is, most of our brains are Einstein's desk without Einstein's intellect. And so we are disheveled. We kind of have this Higgledy Piggledy, random, disorganized, and we need to bring order to our own chaos.
Yeah, I love what you just said, man, because what the tendency is to rationalize our disorder, to rationalize this disheveledness, and then, I'm being facetious when I say this, but like, well, at least, Einstein's desk, look at Einstein's desk. And so instead of identifying this type of blind spot as something that we need to really kind of talk about, deal with, and course correct, we will rationalize, and make excuses why we are okay to stay there. And so I love the way you just put that, like, hey, all of us, majority of us, don't have Einstein's intellect, brain, or wit, and so that's so good. So I love, man, this new idea that you're introducing to us as leaders. And so, man, let's jump into it and kind of get down in the weeds of the Higgledy Piggledy leader.
I love hearing you say that. So let's say it this way: we're talking about a leader that's messy and scattered. And unorganized, and somewhere in that mangled mess is a real genuine concern for their influence. So how do we kind of bring that out? How do we get to the place where we're uncomfortable with the randomness and disorganization and I mean, I'm about to name somebody who's a very controversial figure at present. He wasn't several years ago, but Jordan Peterson, who you might love him or hate him, is a brilliant man. And has helped a lot of people, I think. But his 12 Rules for Living is the book that's helped so many people. And the very first rule. And everybody makes fun of it now. Not make fun of it. It's kind of become its own meme now. It's to wake up and make your bed.
Make your bed,
But there's something to that. It's not just forward motion. He talks about the psychology behind that. When you make your bed, you are projecting order into a vision for what your future will be.
That's good.
And so there is this idea of being... And I'm not saying Peterson is like the great saint or sage on the stage. I do pray that he becomes a follower of Jesus. But the reality is that if we want our influence to matter, we've got to project a vision for the future.
Yes, sir.
And that vision's going to have some parameters or order to it. And so how do we course correct a mindset, if you will, a flawed mindset? That's why we call this... I mean, we're in a series on leadership challenges. That's why we call this a leadership challenge.
Right.
A lot of people struggle with this.
Absolutely.
I know. Listen to me. I struggle with this constantly.
And
there's several times in a year where I'll just have to go, well, I'm doing nothing but today. But I'm fixing the mess.
Same.
Because the chaos feels a little good at first. And And then after a while, you're imprisoned by it.
Yeah. I've been guilty, Brent, of saying, man, you know what? I love what I call organized chaos. And sometimes it has been, again, my rationalization of being able to make the excuse of not being the best version of myself, and I need, because sometimes it cripples me when I'm in the midst of this mess and this chaos. And so I have to pause to unclutter the clutterness in my life, because it's impacting my leadership and everything. And everybody in our shop knows that I live off of
you're the most organized person I know.
Well, I have to.
I mean, you're so intentional. Yeah, that's a compliment.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Folks, listen to me. If you were to compare what I take up to a stage when I preach or teach or whatever I'm doing versus what Jeff takes up to a stage, mine's like a little kid's scratchbook. Like I take it, like I draw a picture over here and I put a keyword. I think I might have 12 sticky notes.
Yeah.
You go up with everything typed, color coordinated, highlighted, and every color means something different.
Yes.
And my brain looks at that and goes, I could never do that. Yeah. And not because it's like I wouldn't be that you're comfortable in that. Yeah. I'm not comfortable in that. And so there's an important point here, Jeff, and that is
great.
Your higgledy piggliness doesn't disqualify you.
Right.
Right? I'm not asking you to be somebody you're not, because I'm this way.
Yeah.
What I'm asking you to do is to focus that energy.
Yes, and what you just that part right there, and that is the purpose. I have to have the colors, the type, because I recognize I can easily live in the Higgledy Piggledy. Yeah. I can easily get in there. And so if I am...
So you're guarding yourself.
I'm trying to guard myself with colored pens and type notes, because I know without that structure around me, Brent, then I am going to be all over the place. Then I succumb to the scattered. I stay in that place where I'm disheveled. I'm
You know what's funny is I know we both, like this week, we're both speaking. Like I spoke to. What a privilege it was to 12 missionaries this morning, and you're going to be with them tomorrow. Some missionaries that are on furlough, and we're getting to spend some time encouraging them, and really they're more of an encouragement, I think, to us than anything.
Absolutely.
But I literally scratched out what I was going to say on the Springfield Inn and Suites Marriott notepad by my bed last night.
Yes.
And that's what I took in to teach this morning.
Yeah.
You'll take in tomorrow.
Yes.
Highlighted.
You already.
Point 1, point 2. I'm glad I went first.
Listen, well, here's the thing. But the pressure of that is, and when we talk about knowing your strengths and weaknesses, I think it's amazing. Like, I love the way you can capture content, organize and bring it down and through a funnel and execute it with precision and everything. But I recognize that's not my strength. I can't do it. So you're right. When we're done, I'm going to go and finish up my notes, and I need to serve these missionaries well. I need to go and stay in that bubble or that structure of being able to organize my thoughts in such a way where I can deliver the content with clarity, with confidence, and also with a level of accuracy, that I'm not all over the place. Yeah. And so I love that we're having this conversation because we do prepare or deliver right down, like, notes a certain way. Now, I'll have on a Springfield, I'll have some notes on a, because I'm thinking,
but that's your ancillary.
Yeah,
that's my manuscript.
But I need to transpose that and to get that over into a document. So that's why I'm really excited about this conversation, this type of leader, because I think there are a lot of leaders who will be able to connect with this.
And again, we're not, I want to read a verse that we've all heard, but the point of this is to say, okay, now let's go through an exercise where in our conversation we're not trying to take away from somebody's personality. You're not saying I need to be more like you. You're not saying you need to be more like me. What we're saying is that if this is a tendency in your life, then you have to bring a little bit of order to the randomness
Yes.
and disorganization.
Yes.
And the best way to approach that,
Yes.
the best way to delineate that is to remind ourselves of the order that God brought to our lives when He redeemed us.
Yeah.
And there's a really clear, among many, text that does that for us in a short and succinct way. It's one we've all quoted and preached probably 100 times, 1 Peter 2:9. And it has 4 titles.
Yeah.
And those 4 titles speak to our identity.
Yep.
And these delineations about our identity, what Jesus has done in redeeming us, is enough for me to have order, or focus, and ability to focus. So, anyways, it says, "But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for His possession, so that you may proclaim the praises." Now, hold on one second. Proclaim the praises. Okay. What are we proclaiming? Praises of the one who called us out of darkness and into the marvelous light.
Right.
Jeff, that's the gospel.
Right.
You can't be unclear about the gospel.
Absolutely.
And so what we see in this text is a healthy understanding of your identity leads to a healthy delineation and communication of a message.
Yes.
And we're saying, if you can do that with your identity, then it can help focus your leadership efforts as you journey forward. Some people might think that we're just going too far with the application of this. I don't. Because I don't think there's any area untouched by the redeeming work of Christ in my life.
And when you talk about the description of our identity, it is tied with such excellence, with a high level of responsibility, a high ranking position where you think about being a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation. I think that there is so, I like to kind of, mirror that with saying, hey, as a people who are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, that it speaks to us being created in the image and likeness of God, right? And that it is important for us to do everything with a sense of excellence as we understand who we are in Christ Jesus, and so I don't think that is going too far, trying to use this text for application for this particular leadership.
I got to mention one thing though, Jeff. The phrase "you are,"
you are,
and I want everybody to understand when Peter wrote the words "you are" and repeated those words with these titles.
Yeah.
In your mind, you need to hear God accomplished.
Yeah.
You are is what God accomplished.
Yes.
And so God has accomplished that you...
From the foundation of the earth.
Yes, sir. So God has accomplished these 4 titles. And the first one is that you're a chosen race. So let's talk about chosen. Let's start with this. You are chosen because you are loved. Full stop.
Yeah, full stop.
Full stop. It's not you're chosen, let's fill in 12 more blanks. No. You are chosen because you are loved. Now, I know there's a lot of debate. We've got the different degrees of Reformed theology, those who go, I'm not in that camp. The truth is we're all Reformed to some degree or another, but unless we're Catholic. And then, but there's this, but the reality is even my friends who are the most, they grow tulips in their front yard. Right? I mean, no matter how Reformed you are, right? You can't get away that we love because He first loved us.
He first loved us.
And so, really, you're chosen, and it really comes back to the love of God. Paul would say it this way in Romans 5:8, but God proves His own love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. And so herein lies one of the great mysteries of God's activity with mankind. There are 2 biblical ideas that are inescapable. Number 1, God is sovereign, meaning that He has and exercises complete authority over His creation. But number 2, God created man with free will, meaning that man has the capacity and freedom to make choices concerning life. So there is something about God's structure of things in which we step into this understanding of, God has chosen us. He has set us apart to the gospel of God, as Paul would say. But it really has to begin with the love of Jesus.
Yeah, man. And understanding that, I love this idea, this imagery of what it means for the sovereign God to choose us, right? No greater love than this, that man will lay down his life for his friends, there is this choice when Jesus went to Calvary's cross to die for us. And I love that Romans 5 and 8 text that, that is his way of proving his love, that
right.
That he would send himself through his son. Jesus was God in the flesh walking on the earth and dying on Calvary's cross for us. And I think, Brent, when we think about that, understanding that we're adopted into the family of God because of what Jesus did. When we accept Jesus, our Lord and Savior, we're part of God's family, man. I think it's so important that you understand that love that was exemplified on Calvary's cross speaks to the chosen, the accomplished work, to your point, the accomplished work that God has for us.
And the word race, and obviously when people hear that word, they think of, okay, ethnicity. If you're from this ethnicity or that subculture or that culture or that tribe or whatever, but really it's a people from all cultures and all tribes that God is putting together under the kind of banner of what Paul would talk about in Romans 1 of heavenly citizenship.
Yes.
And so the race that is spoken of here is all the peoples from all the tribes and all the nations and all the ethnicities that have been separated to the gospel of God according to, the Bible tells us, according to the good pleasure of his will. And so we're chosen because, number one, we're loved. And so I know it sounds cliche to start there, but I want us to say, first of all, the love of Jesus focuses us. Like the love of God as expressed to me in the death, burial, resurrection, and ascension of his son Jesus expresses to me a love that empowers me to have the type of focus necessary to channel all of my energy in faithful service as a living sacrifice unto him.
I love that because it sets up the second thing, that because we're chosen, right, and as citizens of heaven, then it takes us to that next part of what he's saying, is that we're royalty now. That's what it means to be a citizen of heaven, and as that chosen race you're talking about, that there is this royalty, that we're royal because you are related, and that part of the text, Brent, I love, is so important because people don't always think of it in that context.
Yes, we're royal because we're related. It takes it a step further. We're not just, it doesn't just say we're priests. We're royal priests.
Right.
So priests were somebody who had access to God, and royalty obviously was somebody who served, who was part of royal lineage and had an authoritative figure in a government. In an ancient world, we might say, in an ancient Eastern culture. So Peter puts both these words together, royal priesthood. So we're royal because we've been adopted into the family of God. And we're a royal priesthood because we have access to the throne room of God. So the picture is someone who is a son or a daughter of God who can walk up to the throne of God and say, that's my father, and talk to him anytime. God, that is good. A powerful image. You are a royal priesthood. So if love gives me the capacity, the power, the motivation to focus, then the phrase royal priesthood speaks to the audience that I have with God. And that part of my identity focuses me when it comes to my communication and my access in my communication.
And what I love about that is, we think about this in the context of this conversation. I'll be honest, I don't know that I would have initially looked at it through that lens. That intentionality of me as the leader, trying to be intentional in my leadership, and knowing that, if I am scattered, I'm all over the place, I'm just, kind of having this laissez-faire kind of the approach, if you will, sometimes to my leadership style or whatever it is. That's, we're talking about I'm thinking as I'm saying the Higgledy Piggledy leader, but
you didn't want to say it out loud. I didn't want to say it. You ain't representing. You ain't keeping it real.
Keeping it real. You know? But no, I'll be honest, brother. I don't know that I would have seen that aspect. I love the direction you're taking us and just this conversation, because I don't know that I would have been able to bring that I wouldn't have seen it.
You could have. But,
I couldn't. But
here's the deal. I mean, when you know who you are and you have these categories for your identity allows you and even instructs you. That's why I use that phrase, or word delineates, but instructs you on how to channel the activities of your life with great purpose and meaning. And so this idea of, no, let us rest in what God has accomplished. And when we find rest in what God has accomplished, it helps us know what we need to accomplish with our lives. Yeah. I love that. And so we're chosen. We're royalty. We're royal priesthood. But then we're set apart. We're a holy nation.
We're a holy nation. We're set apart, meaning that there should be something distinctly different about us than common culture, right? We again, not to sound like a broken record, but we've been talking about we've been on this inverse, this countercultural living, leadership, and how
we've talked about it, YPS and Lift Tour.
Yes, sir. And so this idea, here about being set apart, we can be in the world, but not of the world. And and so understanding who we are as a chosen race, who we are as a royal priesthood, that means that we are naturally set apart because we are made holy.
Yeah, so love speaks to our motivation, but then we get to that part of our identity where we're a royal priesthood, and that speaks to our access to God. And our access to God, which includes His Word, by the way, instructs our living.
Yes.
Which is why the word holy is so important here. So, part of this, now we're to that point where we're not, okay, so we got motivation, we got access, now we got activity. Yeah. So now we're talking about the holiness of how I live. Yeah. And the fact that, and the reason he says nation is because it's, again, he's going back to that idea that this is his set apart people. Yeah. He's creating a tribe set apart for the New Jerusalem, if you will. Yeah. And so there is this idea that tribe lives distinctly different. And knowing what God expects from me, knowing what holiness is according to God's standards, is the next step in instructing how I live and how I make decisions. That's helping me live with that transformed focus. Yeah. And here's what do we know? In that we know that history is the story of how God is redeeming a rebellious people unto Himself. Right? If we know that that's what we know that sin entered into the world in Genesis 3. That's when everything was once beautiful pre-Genesis 3. Now sin comes in, and that which was beautiful is now broken and it's ugly and stuff. But we know that even before there was a Genesis 3, there was a John 1. And so we think about this idea of understanding that as people who are redeemed, people who are chosen and loved and royal priesthood, man, our life should reflect that, right? No one should have to wonder, Brent, if you are following Jesus. The way you're living your life. Now, are we perfect? No, but my life should reflect the gospel. My life should reflect that of someone who is set apart. My life should reflect that of someone who understands that they're chosen by God and they're grateful for that. Holiness. That we're royal priesthood, right? And that I'm living a holy life. And in our life and our leadership, it should reflect that of holiness. And I think that's a great reminder for us that this text brings to us when we think about this leadership journey that we're on. Love gets us to God. Loves us, gives us all the motivation we could ever need to live for God. Then we have access to what He wants. Yeah. Right? Then we want to live set apart according to that access. But then finally, the Scriptures teach us that you are a special people, a unique people, His very own special possession. Some translations put it, and so now we've gone from motivation, we've gone from access, we've gone from holy standards to now we're a representative.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'll go far as to say go as far as to say this: you can't represent Jesus and be scattered. You can't represent Jesus and go, let me represent the Redeemer.
Yeah.
And live random.
Right.
Like you there's a focus to this thing.
Yeah.
Even in light of some of our personalities, like my own, that's a little all over the map.
Yeah.
And so I love this word, unique. It's a very special word here in the Greek, but I wrote it down this way in my notes. You are unique because you are encircled. Okay, so that if I'm listening to this, I'm going, what? You're gonna have to explain that to me.
Yeah.
but the Greek word here for unique literally means to make round. It's an idea that you make something and then you surround it with a circle, thus indicating ownership. And so what's amazing is that this Greek term shows us what Jesus, what the grace of God has accomplished in my life. It's almost as if God drew a circle around all of you, all the good parts and all the bad parts, all the wins and all the failures, all the successes and all the bad stuff, everything. And he said, I want everything in that circle, and he redeemed everything in that circle, and you are encircled. By the impenetrable power of God, because the grace of Jesus has been applied to your life. That is, therefore, you represent him in this world.
Man, that's so good. I love the imagery of that, of being surrounded, that there is full circle. We're surrounded. The good, bad, the ugly, all of my flaws, all of my mistakes, all of my imperfections, that we have been uniquely positioned to, in spite of us, that we are surrounded, we are encircled, by our Heavenly Father. And when we understand that truth, Brent, then we live a very purposeful life, because we know that we are holy, we're set apart, but at the end of the day, we're covered. We're covered, and by God's goodness, his grace, and his mercy. And I think that should compel us, at least for me, I say, it compels me to say, God, I want to be very intentional about doing everything I can to represent you well.
So that you may proclaim the praises.
Who called me out of my mess.
Yeah, I mean, it's he called us. We want to proclaim the praises of the one who called us out of darkness and into the marvelous light. The idea is like there's this, like you are is what God has accomplished, but so that you may is your responsibility in response to what God has accomplished, and that's a very focused, clear vision. There is a so for all of us Higgledy Piggledy leaders, like I'm not telling you not to be quirky and creative in your own ways, but what I'm saying is that there should be a vision for your life that is focused, that is clear, that is compelling, that ultimately reflects the identity of which speaks to what God has accomplished in us and for us. So
that's good.
I hope that was okay.
Oh man, that was more than okay. That was great, man. That was good, man. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed that conversation. I know I did. And for all of you Higgledy Piggledy leaders, all of us, right? There is hope for us.
Yes, there is.
There is hope. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for our conversation today. But again, we are loving this series, and definitely want to hear from you.
Still got three more conversations?
3 more conversations,
right.
Yeah. So we got 3 more conversations. And but I don't know that we have any more Higgledy Piggledy.
There's no more Higgledy Piggledy coming our way. From here on, we're just keeping it real. We're going to be representing how you run a successful business. I'm not even going to finish that statement. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Chasing Elephants. Until we meet again, wander well and shine like stars.
Peace out.